providing an overview of the stormwater utility funding analysis prepared by PFM, as well as a capital improvement program. In the memo, I tried to do a little bit of a highlight of some of the status of our active projects. We had a number of projects that wrapped up this fall. The Crescent Chase project, the Harbor Oaks, and the Harbor 2 projects off of Longboat and Harbor Oaks Drive. Our Point Vista Park project were completed late this summer or early this fall. We have a number of projects that are queuing up for beginning stages of design work. Terrace Drive project actually is designed and on tonight's agenda to award the contract for the construction of that project. The Green Meadows West project behind Huntingwood Court is one that we're starting design on and have a neighborhood meeting scheduled for next Monday evening. I provided an email to the council last week with the details for that meeting. We have another project with the Green Meadows West project. We have two other projects that are following the same schedule for design. The Forest off of Forest Drive, 5441 Forest Drive, and the Wilderness off of Coburn Lane. We did meet with the property owner affected by the Forest Drive project last week. Very productive, excited to see a project coming. Found out which trees were important to them so we can try to work around those as we work through design. We also met with the neighbors affected by the Coburn Lane project who were not excited to see us and are concerned about the project because in particular one house is at most at risk if the drainage were to wash away, but they did not want any tree removal to happen at all, and it's just not simply feasible to do a project of any scale without any tree removal. And so they have asked, and I'm passing along to you all to consider that we remove this project from the CIP. And obviously at some point down the future we will be back, I would suspect, but given the neighbor resistance, I don't think there's any way we can get that project done. There is no public infrastructure immediately impacted by this project. So if we were talking about a sanitary sewer that was about to wash out or something like that, we'd probably have to work a little harder on it. But this is strictly on the list because of the threat to private property, and particularly the house.
So David, that particular property owner, how do they feel about it?
He's been keeping an eye on it, and he's perfectly fine with how it is right now.
Okay.
So, we could have a big rain event in the spring, and he may call and say, "Come out here and help me." In which case, we'll have to figure out, when to get it back on the list. But okay. So that project is still in the CIP. If you're comfortable moving forward as we look towards adoption, we would remove that project. Real quickly, I'll just touch on the PFM model. Just a couple of reminders. Since the utility was created in 2012, we followed the target of a 50-cent rate increase every other year. That did occur this last July 1. There was a 50-cent rate increase. So this coming fiscal year is our off year. Having ran all the analysis, PFM is continuing to recommend no rate increase this time. And as we look towards the following year, we are on pace to need that 50-cent increase beginning July 1, 2024. We do watch closely our cash balance to make sure that we're not getting into a situation where we don't have enough cash reserves. And so we adjust funding of projects and timing of projects to make sure we maintain that balance. And so one change, we had initially anticipated funding the Royal Park Estates project, which is set for design this current fiscal year and construction next. We were hoping to fund that through cash from the stormwater utility. That would put too much of a strain on our cash reserves. And so we are proposing to fund that through a general obligation bond because it is not eligible for SRF. It's not a water quality related type of a project. And so that's a quick summary. I can go through any of the projects that the committee may have questions on that are in the CIP, but that's kind of the highlights of of the PFM model and CIP changes.
Does council have any questions for David? I see none, David.
All right, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is an update from AKC Marketing on potential road names for Johnston Drive Loop adjacent to Ignite.
Good evening. For some time, staff's been working with the Economic Development Committee on a name for the Johnston Drive Loop there in front of Ignite. We engaged AKC Marketing a number of months back to do some brainstorming with us. They presented at a council work session probably 3 or 4 months ago now with some ideas. None of those quite struck a chord with anybody at the council, but in kind of the wake of that meeting, there were some ideas. I think Clayton's not here right now, but he had the idea of let's associate it with cricket. And I think Councilmember Reddy had mentioned adding some diversity in our street names would be a good idea. So we did some brainstorming with Councilmember Reddy and some of his cricket colleagues. Didn't quite find the perfect name out of that, but as the road's been opening up here, we re-engaged with AKC, did some additional brainstorming, and they put together a short list of names for us. And then late this afternoon, we knew the name needed to be short. Well, we just found out how short it needed to be. So the short list got a lot shorter. So I apologize to Kyle. We cut his list down to 1 or 2 options here right before the presentation, but we'll give those to you, and maybe one of those will be a good one to move forward with or spark a future idea.
So Adam, are you going to tell us why the name had to be shorter?
Well, so we've got a certain amount of length on the stoplights, and it needs to fit between the stoplights and Johnston Drive. Is Merle Road also on there? No, but we have basically 90 inches we found out, and depending on the letter, there are different widths. You can only get about 9 or 10 letters on there potentially. So that's the constraint for us, is we already have one street name on there, Johnston Drive, fairly long, and you just can't fit that much more on there. So, Kyle,
I won't need it. So as Adam said, given the direction of the council from last time, we kind of took a look at some more inclusive names, focusing around cricket specifically, and then had a list that we went through with some city staff, cut that down tremendously today to really one option for the road and park combo, playing off cricket, and that would be Pitch Parkway and Wicket Park, playing off the pitch field for cricket, or a pitch of baseball or a soccer pitch. So it's a little bit more inclusive that way. And then Wicket is just the post in a cricket match.
How do you spell wicket?
Wicket.
Okay, wicket.
Wicket, not wicked.
Wicked way.
Yes. That was kind of where we landed as a group. That also fits the requirements of sign length.
they could also be interchanged.
You could flip them if you wanted. Yeah.
So a wicket is what?
Wicket, it's the posts that they throw the ball at in cricket.
And just to give a little further clarification on the sign, we've got 10 feet between traffic lights to fit the name on. So out of that 120 inches, 30 inches is used for the arrow for direction to point which way that road is split. So that leaves us down to 90 inches of sign. And for spaces, spaces in that road name are also considered a character. So that's how we get reduced to that 90 inches.
So what was the pitch suggestion?
Pitch Parkway,
Parkway.
Would be the road there. And the pitch is the whole field that they play on. It's also a soccer field. It's also a soccer field, or like to pitch a baseball or softball.
Right.
So it is a little bit more inclusive of all sporting events that way.
Thoughts?
Okay.
Well, I think those are both close, getting closer, I think it might be good just to circulate with the whole group and sort of see what they think. I mean, I like, either one is, I like Pitch Parkway maybe just a little bit more, just because it's not as confusing. Like when I think Wicket, is there an H in there? And so from a spelling standpoint, so I like Pitch Parkway maybe just a little bit better. But I would suggest maybe we, given that we're in a pretty small group here tonight, to maybe give Jim and Suresh and Ryan an opportunity, email it around. And I mean, we don't need to make this decision. We can't make a decision tonight anyway, right? This is a work session, so.
I tend to agree with Councilman Cope. I think pitch sounds like it has a broader reference.
Sure.
And can mean, can apply to many sports.
And just for clarity, we were trying to bundle these with the neighboring park. So our recommendation would be Pitch Parkway and then Wicket Park next to it. So it would be kind of the combo to play off each other. So you could then invert it if you want to do Wicket Parkway and then Pitch Park. But our idea was to combo them together for a little bit.
I like Pitch Parkway.
Yeah.
And Wicket Park. I think Pitched Park is a little too close together, but if I had to, given that context, I like Pitch Parkway as the road and Wicket Park as the park. That would be my recommendation, but
I might propose Cricket Park because a wicket is only a device for cricket, correct?
Correct.
And if you're going to go that route, why not call it Cricket Park?
well, you do have soccer fields down there. You have other,
Yeah, but you're calling it Wicket Park.
That was going to be my.
Crickets could be insects.
Good point.
a wicket is an insect?
No, cricket.
Oh, okay.
Cricket has a more diverse, could be thought of different things than a wicket. To me, when someone says a wicket, you are thinking about the English game.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a sticky wicket, which this is becoming quickly.
Well, pitch for me is like tar or something you put on the roof, so there's,
Oh,
but I don't mean to negative. I like the idea that we're referencing sports. I always wanted it to be a sports of some sort reference. I was like looking for inspirational sports, but this is fine.
So I think we're in the ballpark, so to speak.
Your favorite option so far?
I can't hear you.
it is your favorite option so far?
Well, Pitch Parkway, I think that has some appeal because it does have a reference to many different sports. So, I mean, if we have some limitations on what we can come up with, I think that could work.
I like Pitch Parkway too, Pitch Parkway.
Yeah. The only, and I was kind of thinking along the same lines as Councilwoman Martin. The wicket is, very specific to the sport of cricket, so that would seem too limited. Cricket Park is still a little limiting for me because it's more than just, a cricket park. There's other sports going on there too. So I don't know if we could play with that one just a little bit more.
Another idea that was limited due to the length of the sign was Centurion or Century. That the name Pitch Parkway wouldn't preclude us from using either of those as the park name either, to still kind of draw in that cricket reference. Century being 100 scores and a centurion being the person scoring 100.
And you're suggesting that we could use that for the park name?
Instead of wicket, if you have preference not to use that.
I liked the Centurion.
Yeah.
It's unusual, centurion, not century, but centurion. Yeah, I
Right.
kind of like that too.
Okay. Pitch Parkway and Centurion Park. We'll bounce that off with the other council members and see what they think. That work?
Thank you for your time.
Good job. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the distribution of the 2023-24 budget workbook.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
You need to say that into the microphone.
I think you can hear me.
I This ear could pick her up.
The mayor's been able to hear
Teresa has
me.
been screaming at me all day.
The mayor can't hear me talk, so I appreciate that. Cindy, are you telling me I can control this? So late today, I did put on the work session or in your folder, the actual work budget electronically. I have tried to bookmark the areas by what I consider program areas like public safety, general government, public works, culture and recreation as we go through them. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the budget. It's the same layout that you've seen the last several years. Decision packages are right behind the department, so when the department comes to talk to you the night they talk to you, you'll be able to just track right along in the book and not have to flip back and forth. I'm still going to complete the program summaries for you, but I didn't think they'd be of much interest to you tonight at this point. How many of you would request a hard copy in addition to this electronic copy? Councilwoman Martin? Okay. I'll have those ready for you. I can deliver it some night on my way home or something too, if you'd preferred one. So if you
Teresa,
want,
I might request it,
Okay.
depending on whether or not I can work through the electronic one.
Sure. And so I appreciate everyone. I believe all the council persons have answered me, and we've moved what was originally budget session 1 from next Tuesday to December 20th. So you're going to have our council meeting on December 19th, and then the following evening, a budget work session. That budget work session on December 20th is public safety. It's going to be police department and fire department. And the police department's going to need about 90 minutes of your time, and the fire department's going to at least need an hour. And then depending on how we get into our discussion about 2080, maybe more. And the other evening, which is the 15th, so that one kind of became 1 instead of 2, are the rest of the departments. If someone and something happens, a department head can't make it to one of those sessions, they will we'll work them into a work session in January or at a regular meeting in December. And hopefully we'll get our evaluation here towards the end of December, or more than our estimate. And we'll just start plowing away here through the budget. If you have any questions, anytime, you guys have my cell phone number, email numbers, whatever you need, please give me a call. I'll try to help you out and work through it any way I can.
Else have any questions for Teresa?
I think the only question I would have, I'm fine with the electronic version, but I always want to make sure that I'm not missing, like this especially the decision packages.
Mhm.
So would it be possible for you to circulate all the decision packages as a separate document?
Even though they're in here already,
Yeah.
like as an addendum or something to it in
Yeah, or
addition?
just like an email or something.
Sure, I could do that.
If it's going to be, if it's a significant issue, then, but I want to make sure that I'm not missing any.
I don't want to pull them out of where they're at because the department heads are going to go through that.
Exactly.
But I can certainly
As a duplicate.
pull
kind
them
of-
out separately. And I have drafted that decision package worksheet that we have. I've briefly explained it to our new city administrator on how we have done that in the past. We'll go through all of those with you guys at this point. He has not met with department directors about their budgets nor prioritized any of those. They're just put in there in their places. So I can certainly put that together with decision packages and have it as another separate PDF.
And in what sort of timetable do you expect to have valuation information? And so we'll be able to
Well,
kind of.
he usually, the county usually does try to get it to us by the end of December. They really don't have to have it to us until January, but he usually tries to get it to us by December. As long as all the other cities in the metro have turned in their TIF certifications and he can get all of that in, then he's pretty good at cranking out a preliminary evaluation.
Great, thanks.
Okay. All right, again, any questions, anytime, please holler at me.
Thanks, Teresa. Next item on the agenda is an update on the zoning and subdivision process.
I sent an email out last week that had this information, and so I don't want to spend a lot of time on it today, but just want to highlight, we've created 2 online information pieces to help spread the word and educate folks on the draft zoning code and update. The first is an informational website, pulling up here, that's kind of broken down by a property owner or a developer's interest level. So there's a section highlighting residential changes, section highlighting commercial changes, section kind of geared towards developers and designers, highlighting our sustainability efforts, and then touching on our rezoning actions that would likely follow the adoption of the code. This is all just kind of high level, trying to provide an overview of the changes and referring back to the draft code. We also have the full draft code available in a commentable format. So this is full table of contents. All the sections are here. There's links, so you can go down and read each section. And you can see there's a little plus sign on my cursor there. If you don't like this or you have a question about it, you simply drop a click, add your name and your email address, which is confidential, it's not shared publicly, and write your comment or question and post it. You can also, by clicking this little comment bubble here, see comments that others have left before you, reply to it, give it an up or down vote if you like it or don't like it as well. So you can see we've got at least a couple of residents who've taken some time and left some comments. In the email I sent to you last week, there was a separate link and a password that allows you as the council, the commission, and staff to review this and leave your comments on there in a non-public way. So this is public, anybody can go see it. Given that you all have spent so much time on it, you may have more direct questions or comments, you can use that link to do that. So these will all be open through the end of January. That puts us in line for our intended public hearing before the Planning Commission on February 13th and council on March 6th. We have a number of events planned. End of next week, we've invited any developer, designer, architect, engineer who's worked with the city over the last 5 or so years to 2 different informational meetings, so they can just come in and ask questions. Those are the end of next week. We've scheduled 2 weeks, one in December, one in January, where we're trying to keep our calendars clear as staff and allowing people to just drop in and ask any questions without having an appointment. Obviously, they contact us at any time and schedule an appointment as well. And then we've got an open house scheduled for January 10th. We're leaving that as a placeholder right now. Our intent for that meeting will be to personally invite all of the folks that are likely to be impacted by a rezoning action after the code is adopted, and educate them on that process. So that's kind of gonna, I think, be the target of that open house meeting, is really gonna be that rezoning action that will follow to help folks understand that process. So that's just a real quick overview of the tools that are available. Be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Any questions, council?
Did you indicate that we've already received some citizen comments already?
Just a couple in the one regarding tree preservation, one about animal keeping overlay.
And so if we wanted to look at those comments, do we go to the website, or how do we?
Yep. The first link where the full draft code, which opens this page. And then there's this little bubble right here in the top right corner. So there's all the comments that are
Okay, great.
there.
David, I just want to say that the way that you have presented this information in a couple of different formats and have allowed people to easily access it and understand it and comment on it is really impressive.
It's 265 pages, so we know people aren't going to go through all 265 pages. But we wanted the ability, and my concern was, well, we just start getting emails, and I don't like this. Well, where is that? And so I challenged our design team, and they're like, oh, we've got a great program, we'll use this. I'm like, I want someone to be able to read something and leave a comment right there, or ask a question right there, because then we can go right to it and understand what they were reviewing when they made the comment. So
It's great.
credit to Rita and Beth at HKGI who put all the work in getting it this way.
Any other comments or questions, council? Thank you, David.
I guess I do. I mean, it's going to be in all our weekly newsletters. It's in the monthly one. I'm
Yes.
assuming Janet is going to be posting about this on social media several times. You know how people are. They won't do anything with it until it's the day before.
Yep.
It's, and I saw that you have it up until the 29th of January. So I think, we're going to have to bang the drum.
We went an extra long period because of the holidays. We wanted to get it out before the holidays to not lose that time, but we went extra long because of the holidays. And yes, Janet and Maddie have got a full plan of regular social media blasts. We did a water bill insert that you should have gotten with your water bill this month. It was in the Johnston Living magazine and the e-newsletter. It was in today's business record email blurb this afternoon. So we're trying to get the word out. My email blast to the designers and developers went to almost 100 people today. So we're trying to get it out to as many people as we can. And we'll keep, as you said, banging on that drum to make sure that they have the opportunity, whether they use it or not, they have the opportunity to review it and comment on it.
Great.
Anything else, council?
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Oh, yeah, I should. Clayton reminded me. So in the full draft code, we also have at the very end, I thought it's here. It's not in the table of contents. The changes to the stormwater management requirements and the erosion control, which fall outside of zoning but are on a similar, or intending to adopt them at the same time, those are included at the very end of the document, chapters 88 and 89. So they are there as well for comment. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Moving on to item 3E, 2023 through 2024 through 2026 through 2026. Capital Improvement Plan.
Sorry, should have been
Teresa.
27. Sorry about that. So at this point, the council has heard from the majority of the departments regarding our CIP. The only one you maybe have not heard from is this catch-all department called General Government. Cindy, is there a way for me to get rid of those pages and just focus over here? There. Okay, so in the general government portion of the project, that's where we have things that are, usually they're going to be levied projects, not something from somewhere else, but they're library projects, park projects that are going to need bonded but have other economic development areas in them. So if you look through this list and we look at 23-24, which will be the budget year, when you approve the CIP, which is a 5-year CIP, so really it's 23-24 through 27-28. So that was the typo. I apologize about that, Mayor, in the header. You're really going to approve the CIP budget for 23-24. So the second column down there are the items that will be included in the budget itself. And so you'll see that the first item is an ambulance. And I believe we have already approved and have approved that purchase, and we've ordered that ambulance. Chief Clark, when did we order that? This past spring. And when I put the whole CIP book together for you, you're going to see the specific improvement or piece of equipment. There'll be a picture of it in the book that shows you exactly what we're replacing or where we're fixing it, or a map of the area where that stormwater project is happening, or all of those details. I did not attach all of that here tonight. This is just more of the summary of what will be coming for us to set the public hearing. So that ambulance that's getting replaced, do you remember off the top of your head, Chief, what year it is? A 2017 ambulance. So, and then the other project, the Town Center Promenade, Adam? Is Adam still in here? Can you come up and tell the council what that project is about, please? Along with, we've kept the funding marking in there for grading at 50-55, which again would be an Adam project. Can you explain what those two CIP projects are?
The promenade is the second half of what is just been completed by Hanson as part of their first two buildings. So in between the parking lot and the buildings, there's an additional bricked area with some benches and some trees. It was determined at the time that we did the lease purchase contract for the rest of the town center not to install that then because of the damage that would occur when they built the buildings. So we deferred that down the road until after construction were to occur. So the timing on this is really contingent on when those next two buildings along Merle Hay Road would occur. But per our master development agreement, and I'm sorry, I have a lifesaver in my mouth, we would be responsible for that construction now. Could be renegotiated at the time of construction of those buildings, but it would be appropriate given the master development agreement that we budget for that. And then for 50-55 Merle Hay Road, when we acquired the property, we did so with the expectation that we would do some grading and some infrastructure improvements there for the kayak launch and then sell off parcels for redevelopment. Bombers then showed up with a project. We're continuing to work with them to build out that project, but we do retain the clause to repurchase that property if it were not to move forward. If that were to occur, then we would presumably go back to our original plan of making those grading and infrastructure improvements. And so again, contingent on the Bombers project moving forward, which we expect will occur, but in the instance it does not, I'd like to reserve those funds in the CIP for the grading to occur.
So Adam, if Bombers does go forward as planned and they assume that responsibility, the 600,000 can come out.
That is correct. There is some expenditures that we have on the grant side of the equation to assist them with grading and a minor expenditure for some of the infrastructure they would construct directly associated with the kayak launch, but we would not need this specific line item for our grading purposes.
I would just suggest, considering this is kind of a public document, it is a public document, the description of 50-55 grading might be the least opaque description I've ever seen in my life. No, not my life, but it's hard to, I had no idea what that is. And if you're a citizen, you really have no idea what that is. And I really think we need to figure out a way to describe things that are easy for people to understand. So we need to come up with a better, and this probably is just true for the whole document, but that we need to have descriptions that are a little bit easier for people to understand. So I just point that out, so.
We'll take care of that. The other projects then, the departments, Parks Department, Public Works has been here about his road projects, his sanitary sewer projects, stormwater projects. David just told me that he's already fixed the one he just told you about. So although the one you see in front of you from me still has in the wilderness project, he has made that adjustment in the system. So the one we set the public hearing will not have it in there. We've changed it so that there's a whole separate section about trails, and then we have the water projects. And so the entire capital improvement plan for 23-24 is $25 million worth of capital improvements. And in the document that I sent to you, PFM has completed several different financial analysis, and Matt will be at our council meeting in 2 weeks to go through those more specifically with you, to explain them. One of the things he did this time, which he's never done before, but he really wanted to call out for you what certain project, the east of Merle Hay, north of 62nd project is going to cost on our levy. And he provided a separate schedule for just that project, and that was attached for you as well. And basically what he was trying to show us is that just on that project alone, towards the middle of that project, it would add an additional 44 cents to our levy in about 6/1/34. Now, he's also completed, as he normally does, he completed the tax analysis. He included the east of Merle Hay, and then he did one without east of Merle Hay. Knowing as much as we've talked about the council's priority for east of Merle Hay, if we focus on east of Merle Hay and you look at this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th column in, which, like I said, Matt will be here to talk about it. So if you have a bunch of questions, hopefully he can answer them. But our current debt service levy is at $2.33 for the debt levy. And he's projected that goes up to about 305 there towards that 28-29 year. And then of course it goes down, but as Mike and I were discussing, we don't have capital projects necessarily planned out 10 years. Some we do, some we don't. But it also shows our lost money as at a stagnant level of 3.1 million. There's just a lot of factors that go in here, and that's what I'd have him explain to you. But when you if you looked at this document, and you're familiar with this as well, he puts in here what our borrowings would be for 2013, 2014, 2024, 2025, 26, and what we would need to be borrowing, and how that debt schedule would be structured for us. And then the other, of course, important factor that we look at is on the GEO debt capacity schedule. As you're aware, we always closely watch our debt capacity, and currently for the 23-24 year, next year, we'd be at about 86% of our debt capacity. He has it highlighted where by 25-26, based on his estimated valuation growth and such, we'd be at about 90%. That's where we start getting a little scared, and I shouldn't use the word scared, but that's when we start looking at how we're going to accommodate something should something else happen. And that gives us 2 more years to figure out if we want to change projects up or change our funding sources or do something like that. So there's a lot of planning that goes into the CIP. The department directors and I and Matt and the state administrator, we work really hard at trying to get this put together and as our best estimate. Mike's first statement to you talks about, again, that the capital projects are projects that are at least $10,000 in cost and have a life expectancy of at least 15 years, or equipment that has a cost of at least $20,000 and a life expectancy of at least 10 years. And that the total CIP in front of you is more like 128 million, almost $129 million worth of projects in our community. And then we go on to talk about our debt capacity and what our debt service would be and lost and things like that. So unless there were projects back here on the schedule that you had any questions about for the department directors, or you wanted a refresher on what a certain project might have been, they're here to answer those questions. Matt will be here, like I said, in 2 weeks, and we will, at that council meeting, have on the consent agenda to set a public hearing for the first meeting in January for the CIP. Any questions I could answer for anyone?
Council?
So Teresa, I'm looking at the document. I think it's the tax document with East of Merle in it. So I'm looking at the column, it says tax rate per thousand. And so right now, like in the year we're in right now, it's $2.33 and change. Is that right?
Correct.
So, and then, and it looks like for 23, 24, that rate would basically stay the same.
Mhm.
But in future years, it would go up 11 cents and then another 11 cents and then up to $2.80 and then $3.04. So if that were to occur, that would have an impact on our overall levy, right? I mean, that would mean in essence, we'd either have to raise the overall levy. So from $2, so if you go from 233 to 305, that's a 72-cent increase in the levy. You'd either have to increase your overall levy by 72 cents, or you'd have to offset that by reducing your general fund levy by 72 cents.
That's correct.
Both of which are challenging.
That's correct.
So my question is that makes me a little nervous about how many projects we currently have in the CIP. And that maybe 25 million a year, 128 million over 5 or 6 years is too much. Because it means that we're not able to control. I don't think 72 cents to me is not realistic, especially knowing where our general fund is. So my question is, especially to what extent are those projects that we're funding in the 23-24 budget contributing to this increase in the debt levy, the out year debt levy? Because as I understand it, because we fund these projects with debt, the cost of a project isn't just the year you fund it, it's sort of spread out over multiple years.
I would say yes normally to your answer, but if you look at the first column, the first buff column, buff colored column, that says 2023A, July of 23, where we're going to issue debt, we have our first debt payment of about $424,609. Do you see that?
Yep, I do, yep.
Okay, we have that first payment in 23-24, where our levy is still 233. And if you look down through that schedule, we're about 420, 460, somewhere in there. So I don't think 23-24 is our issue. I think what Matt keeps trying to tell me is that when we're bringing on the East of Merle and that's the big, really heavy hit.
So that's I guess that would be part 2 of my question, is why are we singling out East of Merle? I mean, there's other significant road projects in this budget as well. I mean, there's a $10 million road project in there. There's a $4 million road project. So I'm a little sensitive to sort of saying your levy is going to go up 72 cents and it's all because of East of Merle. I'm not sure I'm ready to agree with that statement.
Well, I'd have him answer that next week, but it's my response to you that it's because I guess I don't have do I have the agenda item? Do I have it by source? So if you look at the projects that are funded by the general obligation bonds, okay? And you look into those projects.
So I'm looking at that document and it's general. So it starts basically at the bottom of page 2 and then goes to page 3.
Right. And so in year 24-25, we take a pretty big possibly big hit, if you want to say that, for the fire truck, the fire annexation or addition, if we're going to do that. You're at 1.78 and 2.15. That's $3.9 million for those two things on top of,
Yeah, I'm struggling to find, so that's in 24, 25.
right,
So it's the aerial truck and then the fire station addition.
Yeah.
Okay.
we do have Crown Point in there. Crown Point, we're paying mostly from ARPA and TIF dollars, but there are going to be additional dollars that are needed that will have to be paid for from taxes.
The 1.3 million.
Yeah, yeah. So that year takes some pretty big hits there, and then you get out here.
Because basically, for instance, just to kind of cement your point there, we go from 4.1 million of general obligation bond funding to next year to 8.65. So, and that's
a big hit.
But none of those are Eastern Merle Hay. So.
No. So Eastern Merle Hay starts in right here on this one that I kind of highlighting on the screen, I think. We start with 417, 313, and then it just keeps adding up with another 464. The big projects in here that are the next year, where we're at 3.8 million, is another rescue fire engine and a Foxborough Trail reconstruction is over $500,000. The year after that, the trail on Northwest 86th Street, which is 62nd to 70th, $1.7 million for another trail. Sorry, I'm showing my bias here, aren't I?
A little.
Just a little,
Just a
sorry,
little.
Rhonda. And
Why don't you
then,
put trails and trees?
yeah, sorry.
That'll cover it.
And then on this, Matt, should I have that in both years on the Northwest 100th Street improvements? 1.385 and 1.385. Why do I have that in there 2 years in a row?
Because it's actually a $4 million project and our repayment to the DOT is over 3 years.
Okay,
So that's why instead of having a lump sum payment of $4 million, we spread it out over 3 years with the DOT.
and so, by that time, are we going to have a TIF district out there? But if we do, are we going to have an increment that can help us? I don't know the answer to that, Tom.
Right. So that's the most conservative way is to put it in general fund.
Yeah, and
And again, I'm
so,
not trying to.
so
be
of all
critical,
these
I'm just-
projects, when you mentioned, a $10 million street and the other, if it's up here in TIF or our street revolving, or our state revolving loan fund numbers, they're really high. That's where your water, sewer things are. Our TIF not borrowing, but we still borrow the money, but we pay it back from TIF. This 23, 24, we're at $12.3 million.
But none of those
That's
have an impact on the general fund
Yes.
or the debt levy or the
Yes.
levy. I mean, I'm not saying that's not important.
But that's where that $10 million road and those
You're right.
things that
Good
you were
point. No,
mentioning.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
we're going to each year we have to sit there and look, it's like, is that really a priority that we have to do this project?
Well, and I guess you were helpful in sort of basically your initial analysis is that the projects that we have in the 23-24 budget aren't significant contributors to that 72-cent
Right,
levy increase potentially.
right,
But we need to start thinking about those out year projects.
Right.
I mean, I would suggest we shouldn't wait all the way until this point
Right.
next year to do that. We probably need to really.
start in on it right away.
Because that 72 cents is a very concerning number
Right.
I'm sure to a lot of people. That's because I don't think that's sustainable. So hopefully Matt's analysis will be helpful in looking at that. But I do think we're going to have to be thinking about how we manage that because right now, as I look at it, we're doing too much.
Right,
And
I agree.
we're going to have to. Maybe we may be okay for this year to 23, which is what we're approving at this point, or whenever we actually have the meeting. But I do think we need to look very seriously as soon as we wrap this process up with spreading out those others or figuring out if some need to not happen, or how we're going to manage that, because it is significant, it's an issue.
And unfortunately, what's happened last several years is that we even get started and then some other project comes in that we never even had in here. And that's really thrown us.
Right, but it usually was, I mean, that's part of life, so.
Anyway, Matt will be here next week and.
Next
this-
meeting, when you say.
No, I'm 2 weeks, I'm sorry, at the next council meeting, so.
Any other questions for Teresa? Thank you, Teresa. We do have a closed session scheduled under the work session. Do we have enough time to cover what we need to cover?
I would guess you think we do?
I don't know.
I was gonna say we don't, but
Wait,
I mean, we could certainly attempt to, if you'd like.
Well, we only have 7 minutes, so.
Yep.
I think.
So it's 2-1, so we'll
we're gonna wait.
Yeah, I think we probably need to move it to the end of the regular session. Okay, given that, why don't we see if, do you have any city administrator comments you want to share with us at this point?
I can go through the regular agenda item that I had on there. So we do have, so this, under my reports, we do have our various boards and commissions appointments that we'll be looking at. As you know, we ask our council members to serve and volunteer on various boards and commissions. So for the upcoming year, this is kind of the time of the year that we would be making those appointments to the various commissions. Included in the packet tonight was a listing of all of the boards and commissions and representations that we do, and along with a form that we are asking the mayor and council to complete and to return to the city on indicating your interest on serving on those. Now, staff has highlighted appointments or volunteer opportunities that are available. Additionally, we included an item that shows the historic council representation on the council ad hoc committees for your reference. So if there's not any specific questions, we just ask that the mayor and council complete and return the preference form by noon on Friday, December 9th, so this Friday, so that we can compile that and get it in for your next council meeting, because we'll need to make those appointments at our last meeting in December. Is there any questions for me this evening on that? I'd ask staff, is there any items that you wanted to bring up to council this evening?
Just got one item to address to the council is, we discussed it at an earlier meeting today, but out at 54th and 91st Street at the intersection, we do have a temporary asphalt patch to get us through the winter. We had some ponding issues from a previous project that will work with the contractor to get resolved, but that will get us through the winter for now, so that we don't have any icing issues in that intersection. So if you run across that or get any calls from the constituents, you can also refer them to Public Works. Thank you.
Matt. Any other staff comments to share at this time? If not, we'll go ahead and adjourn the work session and we will reconvene then at 7 o'clock. Thanks, everyone.